we live?
Unmuted. We hear.
I don't see that on my iPad yet.
Just go to live.
Right there.
What else
I did not know that.
All right. It's our first live. Be graceful.
Yeah. There's nothing you can edit out of this.
No. There's nothing.
Dear goodness.
What did he press before?
Hold on.
Presents? No.
Is there a reason we can't hear the TV at all, but our own voices?
I don't know.
Yes, Sean. We're gonna see the bait. Sean said he can see us. Yeah, we're
Hi,
gonna
Brother
show
Sean.
it. So Laura, turn the audio on. Like I told you for
I
CNN.
know, but it doesn't.
Her face.
Just check it. Laura's not on it.
Laura's face.
Click.
Delani.
We just said we were going to go live during the debate. We didn't say anything about showing the debate. We're just going to be live. We're all still alive.
All right.
Before we introduce
Thank
them,
you.
we'll hear the rules of the debate with the audience at home.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
What's up? How's it going? What's up?
Hear me? Check.
Hello,
Yeah, we
mates
can hear
from
you.
Australia.
Determined their positions.
Hello, everyone in Brazil.
I can't hear nothing.
All right.
Answer a question.
It's the world.
Here we go.
For response
Laura, go to one.
Rebuttals. An additional
Box.
minute for follow-up,
We live?
clarification, or response is at the moderator's discretion.
I don't see that on my
To the
iPad.
split box. There you go.
Candidate to speak, his microphone will be turned
Okay, what do we call
It's
this?
on a delay.
What do we call this?
A pop. Funko Pop.
Fungo Pop.
Funko Pop.
I should have got
Funko.
my Fungo Pop.
Funko.
muted. He will be difficult to
It's our
understand.
first live.
Everybody, this is
At the end of the
Fearless
debate,
33 AD.
We're live. Pastor Marty, what do you expect from this debate?
video audio.
Nothing.
I expect a trap. I expect Donald Trump to be, railed.
I
railed.
expect a fly
I
on
think
Joe
he's-
Biden's head.
I think he's going to hold his own, but
Yeah.
it's going to be
We're gonna see the debate.
it's just going to be a mess.
It's
I
gonna be
just
a
think
mess.
it'll be a mess.
We're gonna go in and out.
Oh, there's Joe.
Oh,
Man,
hey.
he's looking good.
Creepy Joe.
Looking good.
Look at his eyes. See if he's.
Laura's face.
That's what he's been looking. He's been packed away for.
So turn your volume down. I think we can hear it.
Mine?
Yeah, on your iPad.
Hey.
Here
we go.
Showing the debate.
The Don.
There he is. There's the man.
The Don.
Yes.
These guys are best friends, I think. Oh, I
Here
guess
we go.
not. Hello, everybody.
Gentlemen, thanks so much for
Hello.
being
What's
here.
up? How's it going? Is it just me? Or does Trump look younger?
Hello,
Yeah, we
mates
can hear
from
you.
Australia.
Is their top concern the
Hello,
economy?
everyone in
I'm
Brazil.
hearing all kinds of
President
timelines.
Inflation has slowed, but
Here we go.
prices remain high.
Laura, go to one.
Since you took office, the price of
Box.
essentials has increased.
Yeah, I hear
For
it too.
example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices
what do we
have
call
jumped
this?
more
It's on a
than
delay.
30%.
Hold on.
What do you say to voters
Huh?
who feel they are
I'm still hearing like
I should
the,
have
Yeah,
got
let me
my
check.
efficiency than they were under President Trump.
everybody. This is Fearless 33 AD.
We're live. Pastor Marty, what do you expect from this debate?
Badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, "It's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right." The economy collapsed.
This poor guy.
Sorry, guys. All
Unemployment
He might have a
rate
heart
was
attack and die right
15%.
now. Poor
It's
guy.
terrible.
right, here we go.
It's terrible.
What we had to do is try to put things back together again.
I need louder here.
That's exactly what we
I can't hear the debate.
I want to hear them.
Turn it up, Laura.
New jobs.
Yeah, please.
Number
My
one
ears.
and two.
Position where
Top
we
right.
have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs, but there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class
More to be
people
done.
are still in
He,
trouble.
he's not going to make.
Scranton, Pennsylvania,
30
a
minutes.
household where the kitchen table.
I'm surprised he's still walking.
There's more to be done. What have we done?
Price of eggs, the price of
Is it
gas,
loud
the
enough?
price of
Yeah.
housing, the price of a whole
Or wait, hold on.
range
Let
of
me.
Look at
That's why I'm
Trump's
working so hard
face.
to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build.
Thank
Tell
you.
us, tell us about your.
We're going to make sure we cap rents.
Thank you.
so corporate
Tell us
greed
about your
can't
plan.
take over. The combination
Then it'll go
of what's
Trump.
left within corporate
So,
greed is the reason why we're in
J6,
this problem right now.
you're-
In addition to that, we're in a situation
Yeah.
where if
good.
you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all.
What?
By the time he left, things were in chaos.
Right.
Literally
Look at his
chaos.
face.
And so we put things back together. We created,
Need
I
him
said,
to go
those
down.
jobs. We
Please,
made sure
yeah.
we had a
Turn me
situation
down.
As soon as we mention,
we
we're
now-
over them.
We brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people.
Cap.
To $15 for a insulin shot as
Trump's
opposed to
face is like a
$400.
meme, man.
No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is and we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price of around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
I feel bad.
Thank you. President Trump?
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country.
Let's go.
We have never done so well.
Fact checkers are going to go, that's not
Everybody
true.
was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID, and when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars, and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created were for illegal immigrants and bounce-back jobs, a bounce-back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Facts.
Thank you. President Biden?
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world. He's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he's the greatest
We all
economy
do.
in the
We
world.
all do, man.
And, you know, the fact of the matter is that
Who's his prep guy? I feel bad for
we
him.
found ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest
You're
tax
a
cut
wealthy,
in American
Brett.
history, $2 trillion. He raised a
wealthy.
deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant, and the military.
Now, fact check that.
You know, when
Yeah.
he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that
I
we
can't
were
believe you brought
this
up
safe
Afghanistan.
country.
That's what I'm going to
Truth
take notes
is,
on. We want
I'm
to
the
talk
only
about that.
president this century that doesn't have any, this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can.
Am I allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of
Jake
money,
Tapper doesn't know
reduce
what
our
a tariff
deficit
means?
tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things.
That's
but
not what it's for.
he made a statement. The only thing he was
For
right
us.
about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down, and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce-back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
Facts.
President Trump,
it was
over the
hurting our
last
men.
8 years, under both of your administrations, the
Biden's
national
face?
debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt, while so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done. We've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country. And I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one.
That was Obama.
Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in America. And what's happening? We're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person
Then why haven't you done it yet, Sleepy
eligible
Joe?
for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do.
Fall
with,
apart.
Look,
there it is.
If we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Oh, CNN bailed him
Right.
out.
He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare.
He doesn't
so
even know
he was
he's
right in the
doing
way
it.
he
Look at
finished
him.
that sentence, and it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people, they cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people.
We're stupid people.
What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
That's right.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court
You got
overturned
to
Roe
say
v.
Tapper's
Wade.
calling him president.
This morning,
Yeah, that's
the
nice.
court
I've noticed
ruled
that,
on
too.
yet another abortion case,
a little kudos to
temporarily
CNN.
allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho,
big
despite that
topic.
state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the
She said
decision
former, but
to
she's still-
overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion bill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives. Everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are
Look at
working
Joe
it out.
Biden.
If you look at Ohio, it
all
was
I'm
a
looking
decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that.
Country loves him.
But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help.
He said
the idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states. Let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in. They talk about that. But here's the deal. There's a lot of young women who are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses.
Why did he even go that way?
Just let him. Just let him.
It's just ridiculous.
He's going to burn himself
do
to
nothing
the
about
ground.
it.
Let him
Well,
talk.
someone in our comments said,
Thank you.
please get him his
There have
medication.
been many young women
Thank you for our
murdered
comments.
Thank you
by
for
the
comments,
same
guys.
people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world.
he's
Considered the
losing
most
it,
dangerous
Cecilia.
place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country.
It's not a
and they
debate.
are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which, frankly, they didn't. But they would have. Everybody wanted it brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat-run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period.
Then where's the law?
Under Roe v.
Then why
Wade,
haven't you
you have
stopped
to
it, man?
late-term
Where's the laws?
abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was
Based
the right
on a
way to
lie.
go. 51 years.
It was based
and
on
it was
a lie.
taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away.
Isn't
What's he
conservatism
going to
good?
do? What's he going to do, in fact, if if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a
America great
universal
again.
ban on abortion, period, across the board, at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases
He's
causing
been
real
prepped to
safety
answer
and
this, I
security
guarantee you
concerns.
that.
Given
Well, yeah,
that,
he's
why
gotten
should
all the
voters trust
questions.
you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that,
The Republicans.
it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. Significantly, by the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages,
not
making
true.
sure
What?
the families were separated.
Obama did that.
That's
That
not
was
the right way to
Obama.
go.
Yeah.
What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office.
Yeah,
And I'm
check
going to
that.
continue to move until we get the total ban on
When he left office.
the total
border's better
initiative
than when he left.
relative to what we're going to do with more border patrol.
Good
and
one,
more
Biden. You're funny.
asylum
Funny,
officers.
funny,
This guy's on
President
crank.
Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of this. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are
Look at him shake
from
his head.
prisons, people that are
You
from
can just
mental
Google-
institutions,
YouTube this.
insane asylum.
Yeah,
Terrorists.
he was
We're the
wrong on
largest
that.
number
I'm
of
making
terrorists coming
executive
into our
to open
country
the
right
borders.
now.
Yeah,
All
Biden just
terrorists,
lied.
all over the world, not just in South
check.
America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, speak to him.
He said Brandon.
Look, we
Speak
had
to
the
him.
safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it.
We don't
and
have a
people are
border.
dying all over the place, including the people
true.
that are coming up in
Thank you,
caravans.
President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person come in his administration, killed 3 American soldiers, That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once
actually
again,
is.
he's
There's a lot of
exaggerating,
data
he's
to
lying.
support it. What are you talking
President Trump,
about?
staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And
I hope
if
he
so,
answered this with
how
grace.
will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including
Biden lied again.
hundreds of thousands of people
save
dying
those.
and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime.
Yes.
They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these 3 incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and he just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all, and he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved. Choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did, and I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by allowing all of these people to come in. And it's a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War II cemetery, World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
Good one.
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up, and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
Come on.
4-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history.
What?
American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right. Thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its 3rd year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him.
He's falling asleep.
That we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned, and so he's got no love lost. But he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind, too. We left American citizens behind.
Yeah,
when Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take my, was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine, never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas.
Right.
They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden?
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter
I know you
is
couldn't
that
wait to
we're
get
in
the
a
malarkey
situation where,
word
let's
in.
take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops.
Did he say brain
and
damage?
he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president. They attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one. Number 2, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number 3, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want, and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did. To Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. Listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish, Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I
if
never
come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine?
Acceptable. No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and
with
we
no
shouldn't be
accountability.
spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? You think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do. Because if, in fact, he does what he says and walks away, by the way, all that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States. We give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward, which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas.
They can't hide this.
They're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing
We're not
hard
talking 4 years, 4.5 more years.
In the meantime, what's happened In Israel, we're finding that the only thing I've denied
chip ice
Israel
cream.
was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work
Once
very well in
8 days of
populated
solid
areas. They
coaching
kill a lot of innocent
in
people. We're providing
in a
Israel with
mock-up
all the
studio
weapons they need and when they need them. And
with
by the
every-
way,
And he knew
I'm
the
the guy
questions
that
already.
organized
And this
the
is what
world
we get.
against
We still
Iran
get
when
this.
they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on
It
Israel.
really is
No one was
sad.
hurt. No one
I actually feel bad
Israeli
for
was
him.
accidentally killed, and it stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so there are two different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent $100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all. You got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. You're going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have, our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. See what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question, would you guard us against Russia, at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time. And I said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President
There's
Trump,
no democracy.
I want to ask you
This
about
is a
January
republic.
6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. and then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this. Because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor of, in writing, by the way, the mayor, in writing, turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see.
Proof of this.
I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it, too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar.
Crazy.
She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up on Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in that dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours. 3 hours watching, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. But he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court, and they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He didn't do a damn thing, and these people should be in jail, and they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out, and now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, you go to Minnesota, Detroit, Minneapolis, what Chicago. They've done there with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that. They saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing. The Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now, out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
Yeah.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at.
There it is.
There it is.
And the fact of the matter is,
I believe Tapper
what he's telling you is
Bash
simply
will do
not
it too.
true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, deserves to be convicted. The idea that they didn't kill somebody, just went in and broke down doors, broke the windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turned over statues. The idea that those people are patriots, come on. When I asked him the first two debates we had, first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing, will you denounce these guys? Will you denounce the people we're talking about now? Will you denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir.
He's like, over here.
You want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie.
That's what you said about your son and the $5,000.
The idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Give you a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it.
The more you hate this
and we
man,
took
the better
in more
it is
money
for us.
in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you heard any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any president say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas,
and you know that's
torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They said, "What do you think of those people? The ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones," he said, "I think they're fine people on both sides." What American president would ever say, Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas, were fine people? This is the guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. Good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
You have no sense.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said
He looks surprised.
100% exoneration on this. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's without question, the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every anchor every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day, it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden?
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why.
Here's what's happening.
40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to.
I want the border closed.
His vice president.
I want my groceries down.
Yes.
I want to go to the
Why?
pump and not have to
Why?
spend
They know him
$150
well.
bucks.
They share with him. Why
You
are they
can
not
keep
endorsing him?
saying this a million
Thank you, President
years.
Biden. We're going to be
He's
right
not
back with
fixing
more
I don't
from
care.
the CNN
Biden's not
presidential
fixing
debate.
nothing. You can
All right,
say all
we're
the
gonna
good
mute
stuff
this.
as much as you want, but Biden ain't
Oh, they're going to
fixing
give him a
nothing.
break?
Yeah.
Our taxes are worse. Our gas is
So
worse.
just,
our groceries are worse.
What do you think so far, Pastor Marty?
Jeez.
I mean, he talked about it a lot, just like what you're saying right now. Let's go to program. Or,
Well, it goes back to this. When you're looking at, I think the country, when you see what's happening in the Bronx with the amount of people in a deep blue state like New York, and then you look at Jamal Bowman and AOC, they pull out 200-300 people. He pulls out 10,000-15,000, you know, in a place that he's not supposed to. And so when you look at what's happening across the nation, Las Vegas right now, last night, you know, what he came out, and the crowds are just absolutely, and they can't pull crowds in. No one wants to go see these people anymore.
Yeah.
And so when you look at what's happening is, they keep saying this. Now here's my thing, and people can take this. I can get hate mail over to this. If he was guilty and he said, go and protest J6 and go in there and tear things up, if that was true, which I don't believe it was, we have the proof of that. But if that's what he did, I've now gone 3.5 years into the future and went, I'm done. I want my gas prices back down to $2. I want my groceries back down. You know, I don't know this, but I went to the store the other day with Mona, and I walked, I was like, what in the world? And you just like two things, and you could be spending $20-$30, and you're going, what's going on here?
I saw a chart. I'll try to post it, but
can't go to McDonald's anymore.
Yeah, under President Trump, it was like 4%, and then you look at Biden now, it's up 27-28% in taxes just in food, you know, gas prices, and it's just keep going up, you know. So
we will fix it.
I mean, he mentioned a lot, Pastor Marty, about what do you think about him talking about the Border Patrol, you know, because you talked about close the borders. You know, why are they so focused on his mean things and sleeping with porn stars? And your rebuttal was just close the borders, man. Do something.
Please help us in some way.
Here's
We're dying here, man.
Here's the thing. You know, the morality that these guys are trying to throw on Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I like
when you're talking about Stormy Daniels, it wasn't he.
After.
And I'm gonna just say this: when a guy promotes himself and projects himself like a playboy, and he's a billionaire,
he's gonna
and stuff
that.
like that, you can attract that type of people around you. That's what he did. But then he decides to throw his hat in the ring. And then you realize everything you've ever done in your life is going to be massively
under the microscope.
Under the microscope. And so, I just believe she's it was a payday. Her and E. Jean Carroll, those are paydays. I mean, when you look at, I don't know why people have a problem with this. As a billionaire, you don't got to go and rape no one.
No.
You can just line up 100 women of the top models in the whole world. Mm-hmm. I mean, the top models that say, give you all. Yeah. Give you all.
Money can buy that.
100 million apiece.
Can buy
as a billion. 100 million.
And that's
give me
nothing.
10 women as 100 million. He could do that. And he could do it privately. He can hide those things and stuff because you have that kind of wealth.
Yeah.
And when you look at it, and here's something I've always said is this. You know why I know Donald, where I learned to trust him is because of this. I look what everybody does, and knowing he's in the casino business, I know what kind of characters are in the casino business.
That's true.
There's a lot of dark money and stuff going in the casino business. And if people attack like that with that kind of financial portfolio,
Yeah.
I mean, look at the people that disappear around Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
Facts.
I mean,
We're back.
Okay, go.
Face again in a second term. President Biden, while black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, black families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
If you vote for Trump, you ain't black.
He acknowledged you
That's
made
what
a
he
lot
said.
of progress, number one.
you don't vote
The fact
for
of
me,
the
you ain't
matter is
black.
there's more small black businesses that have been started from any time in history.
Jeez.
Number two, the wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're providing housing for black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. In addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that
Come on,
black
you can
families
do it.
have to make relative to child care
Good
is
job.
incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past,
And we need
I was
more
able to
airports.
reduce black child care costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for child care costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide those child care protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any black family, first-time home buyer, should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those black families and those black individuals who provided had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest was forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation.
Come on.
And he's right, it's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food
And
where it's
Hawaiian
doubled,
families.
tripled, and
Hawaiians, come on.
quadrupled. They can't
Native
live.
Americans.
They're not
And
living
Native
anymore. He caused this inflation. I
It's
gave
true.
him a country
just not
with
white people.
essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New Scam
Yeah,
and all of
you know,
the other,
that's sad.
all this money that's
If
been
he'd have
thrown
just
out
done
the
nothing,
window.
we'd been
He
better
caused
off.
We would've been
inflation.
better off.
As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy. Absolutely decimated the economy.
Wait, what?
That's why there was no inflation at the time.
That can't be
There were no
right.
jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who are in all communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered, the ACA has increased. I made sure that there are $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again, and they're going to try again if they win. We find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing any, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot
He lied
going
about
on.
it.
But in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance
Of
in the way he
mean
handled
words.
the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis.
Jeez,
2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump.
Yeah.
Almost every police
Let's
group.
go.
And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name, and he called
he
it
was
to
a
them,
senator.
and they've taken
Yeah.
great
He was a
offense at
senator.
it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically
No one's gonna forget
black
that, Joe. So you can
colleges
look
and
like-
If you don't vote
universities,
for me,
where I
you're not
funded
black.
them and got them all funded,
Good job,
and
Joe.
the opportunity zones with
In the
with
basement.
Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job. Great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary
He's on
are
it.
blacks. And that's why
I
we
think that's
have
who
the
he's gonna
best
pick.
numbers with them.
Tim
in
Scott.
Well, they said they were
maybe
going to
ever.
announce
They're
it
saying
tonight.
ever. I read this morning
I think
wherever
he's
the
at
best
the-
numbers.
at the
He's
convention.
lost
Oh, okay. Oh, you know, I
much
heard-
of the
misheard.
black population because he's done a horrible
does.
job for
That'd be
black
cool. I
people.
think
He's
Vivek-
also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
Did you see that
38
Chicago,
seconds
New York?
left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever, and we were using all forms of energy, all forms,
Right there.
everything.
I would've
And
just
yet,
said,
during my
I
4
will
years,
try my
I had
best.
the best
I will do the best.
environmental numbers
But we've
ever.
got to have power.
And my top
Yeah.
environmental people gave me that
Self-sustaining.
statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything
Who
he
turned
says
your
is
mic
true. I've passed
Yeah.
the most extensive climate
Just let
change
him go.
legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges. I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have those. They don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing what any white student can do. They just don't have the money. But now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming
Reading notes.
to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He out of the
Language.
Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do a damn thing about it. He wants to undo all that I've done.
All that
Paris
you've done.
Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States.
Look at Biden.
And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones. It was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it, and it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors.
That's
What
not gonna
he's
go
doing
well,
is
Preston.
destroying all
Look
of
at
our
him.
medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not
I didn't understand that.
members of the Paris Accord.
Yeah.
How can we do
Moderators
anything?
didn't get
We're
involved
not
in it.
able
It was
to-
like
the United States can't get under control. One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps where thousands of young people will learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
So every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share.
Like you?
Right now, everybody
AOC?
making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a
don't
paycheck
get
from the time
what?
the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're going to, I'm proposing that everybody, they pay, the millionaires pay 1%. So no one after, I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond
you,
to be able
Gavin
to
Newsom,
guarantee the program for life.
AOC.
So you still have
Pelosi.
82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep
Shifty
Social
shift.
Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent, but
By the
biggest
way-
thing I'll do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare, both times. And that's what. And if you
Isn't
look
that
at the
ridiculous?
the
He's
program
just
put
making
forward by
junk up.
the House Republican caucus that I believe supports,
they must be
is in fact
terrified when he's
want to
talking.
cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA,
I
as
do
I
not.
said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have
40,000
a
or 40
pre-existing
million?
condition. Only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing
Could be
is,
40
we're in a
trillion.
situation where
Could
I
be 40
talk about
trillion, billion,
education
yeah.
for black communities. I've raised
Give or take a
the
zero.
the amount of money
Zero.
for Pell Grants.
He can afford to
another
lose one.
$8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with
sounds so good.
politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years.
That's right.
I've never seen anybody lie like this guy.
His
He
nonsense.
lies. I've never seen it. He could look you in the face. About so many other things too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country.
Sean
and they're
said
putting them
blah,
onto
blah,
Social
blah,
Security.
blah,
They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our
Love you,
hospitals.
Sean.
They're
I didn't
taking the
see his
place
come
of
through.
our
He's
citizens.
texting me.
there.
Sean,
What they're doing
commented
to
on
the
the,
VA,
the
to our
chat.
veterans is unbelievable. Our veterans
got
are living in
Laura.
the street, and these people are living in luxury
Yasmin,
hotels.
Cecilia.
He doesn't know what he's doing, and it's really coming back.
Yassine,
I've
I'm
never
sorry.
seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden.
I mean, I'm mad
The
about
idea
it.
that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired
It is
that
a
general.
fact.
That general got
The
fired
veterans are not being taken care
because
of.
he's the one that acknowledged that
It's
that's
obvious.
he's
I
the
have
one
a-
standing with Trump when he said
A
it.
nephew
Number one. Number two, the
tries to
idea that
deal
we're
and
going to be in a
help them,
situation
and
where
he just can't get any
all
help.
these
My-
millions
through
and
his
millions,
organization.
everybody talks
My
about
uncle takes care of
illegal
veterans
aliens are coming
and knows
into
that
the
this man's
country
doing
and
nothing.
taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world.
We do?
The reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony. Those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession, and inflation is going to
You
increase.
said 51
and by the way, worst president in
intelligence
history,
officers signed off on a
159 presidential
laptop.
scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent.
And Dana
in your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Yeah. And so
they're on the spotlight. That's why.
The general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he did that. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him.
became a debater.
Well, it's because CNN knows what this man's doing.
He never fired people.
They're protecting
I've never seen
Biden.
him fire anybody.
Yeah,
I did fire a lot.
Biden,
I
but they're
fired
still doing a
Comey
good
because
job.
he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put him there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed?
Yeah.
Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and he reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's
Biden's
insignificant.
the greatest in history.
He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen.
We can all walk away from this debate and know that
wins this election,
they're both the worst
our
presidents
country
in the
doesn't
history of
have
the
a
United
chance,
States.
not even a chance
That's a fact.
of coming
According
out
to
of
each
this
other.
rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump.
Then
President
Obama.
Biden.
We're the most admired country in the world.
Cap.
We're the United States
Oh,
of
my
America.
goodness.
There's nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world. The finest in the history of the
then
world.
you haven't seen China.
No one thinks we're weak.
South
No one
Korea?
wants
North
to screw
Korea?
around with us. Nobody. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents.
Blah,
I wasn't
blah,
joking.
blah. There it is
again.
Look it up. Go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential
ever,
historians.
bro?
They've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history. One through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture.
You say it's a fact doesn't
You
mean
can
it's a
argue
fact,
they're
bro.
wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care, he did for virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have
Thank you, President
child care
Biden.
facilities.
President Trump,
Yes,
the
cut 'em
question was
off.
about what would you do to
all
make
the
child care
businesses he
more
burned
affordable,
down.
if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you, and they rate me one of the best, okay?
His mic was off.
And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best.
Come on.
Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
Another one.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about. He's increased
Go to
the
your papers.
he will
Facts.
increase the taxes on middle class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000.
And yet you did it to me.
It's 10% tariffs. Everything coming in the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American
Under $40,000.
$2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that are important. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he somehow helped the middle class. Wow. Middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country.
Collars, man.
You have the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden.
You lost
Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Close that border.
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come.
Yeah, you have to admit he did that. That was good.
But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
Opioid.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot. And we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women
and children
coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But
yeah, they come as they go and please.
Drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl, these big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers of all the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues and said, don't do it.
I'm expecting at any moment for him to say
he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say it's a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter, I think a good guy, And he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago. But Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases where we paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. That speaks
a lot.
This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less confident.
You were young. You didn't do nothing
I think
good.
Just look at the record.
You've
Look
been
what
at
I've
this
done.
so long,
I've turned around the horrible situation he left me.
done nothing.
As I said, 50 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought an awful lot of people. Well,
Trump, I go, you lied about your education.
Computer chips. We used to have 3% of the market.
Mm-hmm.
We
Every
invented
chance
those
you
chips.
get.
And we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and to bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States. And guess what? Those fabs, they call to build these chips, those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us. All of our allies.
Yeah, I think Putin would stay Putin.
And those who he calls up from Kim Jong-un, he sends love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term.
Yeah, he looks good.
What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one.
Like
go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests.
If I was Biden,
physical
if I was
exams
Trump,
every
I'd get
year.
into the Her report.
And we knock on wood wherever we may have wood. That I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior. 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced him. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they've never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap.
Oh my gosh!
When I was vice president, down to a 6.
I'd do it. I'd go.
I would do it.
And,
let's go.
By the way,
say less.
I told you before, I'm happy to play golf.
The debate is over. Let's go hit a ball.
Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
We're talking about golf.
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay, let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to turn
Let's not act like children.
to a specific concern that voters have about you. will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election,
setting them
regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation.
He cares about us.
And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III. And we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him.
They don't.
They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
That was a good answer.
You want a World War III,
Let's hit a golf ball.
follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want.
What?
There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is an attack on all, and required response.
They
The
must have slipped
idea,
him something at the break.
I can't
Look
think
at
of
his
a
eyes.
single major leader in the world
They're different.
who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done, what
Ibuprofen?
they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, and go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it.
That's right.
He's not going to play games with me. He
question.
knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine.
It is a fact.
You know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia, because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were
President
president.
Trump, the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, No political opponent
billionaire.
stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win.
yeah.
A
But
billionaire
unfortunately,
can
it's
do
driven
whatever
up by
he
numbers
wants.
and driven them
He can let
up
the
to a
country
very high
burn.
level because the people understand it.
Well, let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time,
Sucker and a loser.
you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the
Gosh,
country.
man.
Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation,
There was.
all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all.
There actually
And I
is.
tell you what, I doubt
There
whether
is.
you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
What are you talking about? Democrats burned the cities
We'll be
down,
right
not
back
us.
with more
All
from
right.
the CNN president.
So now I noticed how they've been doing a good job handling the debate, and honestly, I thought CNN would be so much more worse on the traps. I mean,
Yeah.
we expected a lot of it, but Dad, what we
going
got?
on?
We got another one going on.
No, just mute that.
Here, turn that down. So, Dad,
Then
It's
we
on-
have
it's on
with
the
us-
laptop.
By the way, we got my wife and your wife and
we got a lot of
kiddos,
good people
family
in
members
here.
and stuff sitting in our studio,
fam,
so
yeah.
watching together with us.
I wanted to ask you, Dad, because I'm just bringing that up. What do you also think again about how CNN is handling the debate? I think they're doing a good job. Not
Well,
too bad.
You know, I think that they took I'm going to say it this way. It's not over yet.
It's
and
not.
so,
Yeah, it's not over yet.
You know, whether waiting for their zingers and all that type of stuff
Yeah.
towards the end and getting it in there. But I think what they're doing is they're like this. Everybody is waiting for us to attack him when really all we got to do is just, I'm surprised with the questions.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
The
am
questions
too.
are more fair, and where I kind of thought that they would, as I said, pre-show is that they would just everything would be felon attack. You're a convicted felon. What are you going to do about being a convicted felon?
Right.
Like they
Now
get their
that you're-
jabs in before the questions.
You know, well, how do you plan to deal with if they put you in jail? All that type of stuff. All your penalties, everything. I just figured that would never stop. And then he would go after Hunter Biden and all that, and it would go into those type of places. But actually, my opinion of it is, it's a little bit, I'd say on the boring side.
Yeah, they're protecting Biden, I think.
Yeah.
They're slowing down for him.
I think that where we're at right now in this debate is,
I think they're
I
very
keep trying
nervous
because, you know,
every time he talks.
I'm a conservative. I'm going to go, I'm going to vote red. That's just,
We're going to vote according to our
voting.
beliefs.
Yeah.
And Republicans seem to be doing that.
So what I feel is that what we're going to do is or what CNN is doing is taking a little bit of the high road, because if I think this, here's what I really believe. If CNN goes in and lets this become a war,
Yeah.
Biden is going to collapse under that.
That's what they're protecting.
And so
They don't
he'll
want him
collapse.
to do a free-for-all
So
with
they're just
Trump.
keeping it very moderate and
Yeah.
Minimal.
very
Yeah, they're
minimal.
controlling it.
And controlling it. And in that, you're doing a good job. But I'm impressed that he's going Mr. President
Yeah.
I was happy
with
about
both
that.
of them.
Yeah.
You know what I think it is, too?
And then, but Dana Bash is saying,
Mr.
you know,
Trump.
No,
Yeah.
no,
It's
she-
no, they shouldn't
Former
say that.
president.
I'm saying
She says
she
former.
could have said that,
Yeah.
and she didn't, which was
Well,
impressive.
what I think with
former President Trump,
just how social
which is
media,
actually his title.
Yeah, well, just with social media, man, you can't. That's why they're trying to ban TikTok. You know, these people. We're not stupid. You know, everyone knows now. Watching this, like you said earlier, I'm
stupid.
glad they're doing this. Now they're seeing for themselves what they're trying to protect and what they've been lying about.
Right, yeah.
So that's why I feel like CNN's careful. That's why you
Yep.
said they're not bombarding Trump. They're not bombarding Biden. 'Cause
They
they
did
don't-
that pre-debate.
Yeah.
If you were the hour or so, a couple hours
Yeah.
before the debate, I mean, they just slammed Trump.
And we were
Yeah.
discussing it earlier. That I'm not surprised a lot of things that Biden has said in the debate. Like we're like, oh, we're shocked that he said no. Don't be shocked, folks, that he said a lot of the things. A lot of the things that you're saying in debate is only so people out in the world can believe it. It's malarkey.
Yeah.
And it's nonsense.
Well-
it's like just to get people to believe. the
Well, we're
narrative.
back.
One more thing, Pastor Marty. Sean says they haven't had this many viewers in a long time, and they are walking on glass trying to be credible and win viewers
They are.
back.
They are trying
That's
to win
good,
people
Sean.
back.
True.
No one likes Biden.
Yeah. Or CNN.
They have the world watching them right now.
My
Yeah.
Democratic
We've made
friends don't like
significant
Biden.
progress
That's true.
from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. find ourselves
See,
in a
just watch that.
situation where,
His-
number
his
one,
last,
we have to
Yeah.
make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask
It's
anyone
not.
out there in the audience, or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes, and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate.
You guys voted for
with
this
the
clown.
big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along. It's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credits that people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation.
Why don't you just clean up Palestine?
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Yeah.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed.
Yeah, where'd they
Iran
get
was
all the
broke.
weapons from?
They had no money for
Us.
Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world.
Come on.
What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like. Even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Amen.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts.
Yeah. Well,
That was fun. And very, very entertaining.
Pastor Marty, you're thinking.
Well, they're still standing there, so I'm wondering.
Oh, whoa, sorry. Did you mute it? Yeah, they're just closing out. Oh, that's it.
The president and former presidents making their way.
Yes, they're right there.
All right, well,
What do you think, Pastor Marty?
I said earlier, it was just a little bit, well, it actually was a good debate.
It was good,
But
it was one-sided.
the reason I said the word kind of boring is because you expect something else.
Yeah.
You know, I expected to
Like
see a war.
Wallace. Like a
Yeah,
Matt Wallace
yeah,
or
yeah, and-
Megan Kelly
We,
type
we
argument.
expected to see a fight. We didn't expect to get a
And
knockout.
I have
Yeah.
to say again, hats off to Jay Tapper and Dana
Yeah,
Bash.
good job, guys.
They just asked their questions and stuck to their guns and did what they were going to
Hey,
do.
if you keep it clean
they
and
didn't
fair,
lead
it's
into
fine.
it. In other words,
Yeah.
see back in 20 when they were debating and stuff, Mike Wallace and stuff, he turned in the third debater.
Yeah.
He would start debating because that's not what he said, and that's not true,
Yeah.
and that's not this, and so Donald Trump's going, I'm not supposed to be
He let his-
debating.
Are
you.
you running
He
for
let, his,
president,
he
bro?
let his personal side get involved, and,
and
then
they
that was a
didn't.
mistake.
They didn't do it at all, and
Look
so
bad on you, bro.
I mean, I don't expect CNN to change
No, I
at
don't.
all.
No, I
But I'm. Here's what you just hit that on the head a while ago. It's their opportunity because they know that the conservatives are watching them tonight.
Yeah.
So it's their opportunity for them to say, we better just get our act right, and so we can get our viewership back up.
Sean said that. Yeah, Sean.
And if more people will view us, we're going to have a whole different base of people watching. MAGA's watching tonight.
Yeah.
And so where people can do that. And so I think they're on their best behavior where I expected them not to be. You know, MSNBC, no way. They could have no way
Well,
went
you
through
know what that means?
I mean, there's just no way. But inside
You
of
know,
this, you just expect
It's obvious,
they
but
did
you know
the
what
best.
that means? That they're on their best behavior because they know that the whole country is backing this man.
yeah.
The more you hate him, the more people will come behind him. The more money pouring into him. I mean, it's just crazy. And
Well,
he
look-
doesn't need the money.
Look what the liberal media has sided. They sided with wokeness. They sided with liberalism, right? And so
Yep.
that they picked a side, and the majority of America is not that.
No,
you know.
yeah,
So and
that's
because
not
of that,
that.
they've dug a hole. So this was their
dug a hole.
opportunity to get out. You know. So I'll say this lastly too is that now I feel like they're starting to see it hit their pocketbook. The reality is that I know how I feel, but the reality is under this man.
Yeah, if we keep doing this, we're gonna
save
fall.
money. If we keep doing this,
Exactly.
follow this minority group, this little group. Yeah, this is the downfall, and,
Yeah.
and like you said, Sean coined it. You know, there's an opportunity to say, you know, we'll be we're bipartisan, we'll be equal. You know,
We'll be
so
equal.
that's what I think, man. I think overall, I'm glad we did
You
this,
know,
man.
today, my wife's here, Mona, and
Hi, Mama.
she was telling me
Want to come up here, Sister Mona, and say hi?
she was telling me about some friends that she used to work with. One of the guys she used to work with at her company, that he came by to say goodbye, and they're moving out to Texas, and headed, you know, and got jobs and everything there. And I says, you know how everybody's leaving California and headed to Texas, Florida, any other state really, but I don't know if Texas is the place to go to.
No.
Because Texas is very close to turning blue. They're they're very close.
they're close.
And here's what I mean by that. That whole state is red, but Dallas, Austin, and Houston are not.
Yeah.
And when you get those massive places, they dictate how the whole state is determined.
Well, it
When
happened-
you look at the counties
it's happening
across
to
the
us right
United
now.
States that are red, I mean, the whole United States is, because it's what you said, majority of people. When you go across, they are more conservative, more family values. They want to just
Yeah.
make their money, be left
I
alone.
just think at a basic
get the
level.
government out of my life and stuff like that.
Yeah, leave
But
me
the
alone.
people that don't want to that is the ones that are in San Francisco, Los Angeles,
Just those little
Oakland.
cities, those.
They're not little.
Yeah.
Whoa,
They
they're-
control
they're-
the
well,
state.
What
Well,
he's
on
saying,
a
yeah.
national level,
Yeah.
they are little, right? You know, because like
Little cities with a
Sean said, he was
bunch
saying, you know,
of
thanks for chiming in, Sean. He says they didn't change anyone's vote tonight, you know, but I do believe that on a smaller scale, these cities that have a bigger impact nationally, you know, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
I kind of disagree with that. I think there are people that just maybe, and I'm not saying both of them's got their hardcore.
No, okay. No,
Let me just say this right now. I came into this live stream knowing I'm voting Trump.
Facts.
Right,
I mean,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
fact.
yeah, of
There was
course.
nothing that changed my mind. Okay.
No,
There
that's what
wasn't.
I think. That's what he
And
meant.
the reason is because I know what the other side is, and I'm looking at the other side going, I just can't
Well-
have that. I can't have baby killers. Just
Right.
that's it. And so I know where my vote's going to lie
And
in that
here-
as a pastor. But whenever I look at that being said, that nobody, I
Yeah,
think
right.
moderates and a lot of those moderate Democrats that are leaning towards the middle, that know that their party, like Tulsi, you know, when she left those type of people. I mean, Tulsi ran on the Democratic
Yes, she did.
ticket for president in 20, and here she is, a conservative. It's just saying she hasn't become a Republican, but she is in that conversation to be the vice president with a Republican president.
Yeah.
You know, being elected if Trump gets elected. So I think it's different. I think people look at this, and even if they love Biden, I got to believe this right now. Here's what I'll just say it this way, and you guys can have the rest. I'm going to say it this way. Jake Tapper wants to vote for Trump, and he can't pull the lever.
He can't do it.
I just felt that way tonight. I just kept feeling like
Explain
this.
that.
Jake Tapper, he's like,
Well, it's easy. I mean,
he's
come on.
looking at Biden and he's looking at this and going, these are my only two choices. I don't want him.
Yeah.
And that's what the Democratic Party
But
is
I
saying.
hate Trump so
That's
much,
why
I
everybody-
have to go with him.
That's why I'm saying you're going to see the great switch outcome during the convention, and they're going to take Biden out. They're going to take him out.
It's not something that we're thinking about, that people are thinking about. It's that a lot of people, and the fact is that a lot of Democrats out there, friends of ours, liberals or conservatives or libertarians or independents, they're all leaning towards Donald Trump based off the debate we just saw. That was completely one-sided. We thought the whole time that there'd be something to kind of deal with that would be hard.
I try to.
It just seemed like
I
Biden
try
was
to
just
put
like,
I
I
really
don't got
try-
enough paper here.
Just running out.
I try to think this way. I'm a devout, dyed-in-the-wool Democrat. I know my candidate has been at Camp David. He's been away 8 days in a hangar being coached to do this right
And
here.
still did a sucky
That's
job.
the best you got after 8 days of coaching. That's it.
And knowing the questions.
And by the way, I thought he did a pretty good job. I thought Biden stood, he went the distance.
For 85 years
he
old,
He stuttered a lot and he stammered, but at least he got his information out there. But I know that when you look at them side by side now, see, that's what I'm saying. When you look at them side by side, you have the ability to go, I just can't go Joe Biden.
I can't.
I'm
I
a
just
devout
can't
Democrat, but I
do
can't
it.
do that.
I can't do
This
it.
guy's going to die in office, and we're going to get Kamala, and I'm just not
That's
doing
a
that.
bad idea.
I think
Kamala's a bad idea.
I wonder if she just sent back there out there like pissed off or like just doesn't even care, not even watching the vote, right? Because they know it's all a setup, And I think my last thought on this too would be, man, I'm praying by the power of the Holy Spirit, man. My prayer is that that feeling they feel watching this, knowing that they're wrong, go against your pride, man. Kill your pride. Know you made a mistake. Say, God, I'm sorry. I'm voting for Trump, not because it's political, but because I know on more our standards alone, human life, sanctity of marriage, protecting and loving our brother, loving our neighbor, just based on that in its basic form, and I pray that tugging you feel, that embarrassment, listen to that, because that's the Holy Spirit talking to you to change your vote, to change your life. If my people who are called by my name would humble themselves, seek my face, turn from their wicked ways.
That's all it is.
That's where my
If
my
you
heart
vote
is.
according to your Bible, you'll vote
That
correctly.
sounds like something in the Bible.
Amen.
But that's
Second
my thing. I
Chronicles.
think after tonight, at the embarrassment, I was embarrassed for Biden.
If my people,
Yeah.
Yeah.
goes right along with
You're
we the
embarrassed for
people.
Biden.
Yes, yes. So I don't know. I was embarrassed for Biden, and you guys listening and watching. I'm not here to bash you, make fun of you that you vote. That's your right to vote, But the reality is that you saw, like you said earlier, they put him out here. Now everybody knows. You can't lie about this now. What's that saying? You can't con a con artist.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
If he would have just walked out there, but Trump, he was on the platform last night in Las Vegas. He's touring around. He's just out stumping, And Trump came in today like the Super Bowl champions.
He was
They
ready.
got him massaged
Yeah.
up. They got him back there stretching and
Didn't
stuff.
even
And,
know
UFC
nothing
fight.
go.
kind of like wrestling, slap him in the face. Like, you ready?
Yeah.
You ready?
You
You,
ready?
can do
Let's
this.
go.
You can do this. And he'd come out and he's the same thing, just like that's not
It's
that's
absolute
not
malarkey.
And
just
so I think everybody got a chance when you look at
never
them
heard
side by
something so
side.
ridiculous in my whole
There's a
life.
bunch of moderates are going like this, going, I just can't do this.
No.
I'm voting Trump. I'm going to give him one more chance.
I have had my own brothers come up to me that are a little bit liberal to the liberal side that voted for Biden, but even they'll look at me and go, I don't like Trump, but this is a bad idea. And it's like, this cannot be good. I'm voting for Trump simply because I know Biden is a terrible idea. And it's true. You can't deny it.
Well,
No, I don't have any more.
we're gonna
final comments.
we're gonna
Be
call
done.
this.
Yes,
First live came out pretty good.
it did. Thank
yeah,
you,
it's the first time
everybody.
we tried this. So,
Thank you, everyone.
But hey, it's a nice shirt you got on there. What,
And the cameras.
voting felon.
Go to 3.
Go to 3.
Or go, Laura. There you go. There you go. Right
It
there.
doesn't matter where you go.
Oh yeah, there it is. Can everybody see
As long
it?
as you go to heaven.
Amen, brother.
Amen.
Amen.
Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, share us, and
Yeah,
and
please.
to other folks and stuff like that. And
Keep watching our
again,
videos. Check
we
in
are
with
just
us.
brothers in Christ that have our
Amen.
opinions about politics and other issues that go on in the world. We're not here to preach at anybody or tell you you're right or wrong. It's just we're just here to say that we are right and you're not. No, I'm just kidding.
No, yeah.
But
We love you.
we just want you to just listen, and if you got something to say to us, please
let us
comment. Let
know.
us know.
Comment,
please let
us know.
We love doing it.
Yeah, we appreciate the comments too. People following us and
Wait, shut this down.
Yeah, we want to shut it down. Last thing I want to say, because Dad reminded me right now. But the final thing I would like to say on this, and probably most important for sure, is that we believe that God's word is the truth. Amen. So if you vote according to your Bible, like Brother Jose was saying, and if you vote according to your morals, your word, what you know is right, you will lean to that side and end up voting for it, regardless whether Republican or not. We know this is a divisive issue, but you folks need to know this as much as all of us need to know what's going on in our country, or it's going to burn alive.
Amen.
We have to vote, right? But that's it.
If
Thank
you
everybody.
love God,
You love God. Vote.
if you
Right.
love God, and you call yourself a follower of Jesus Christ, you will not vote for any candidate that is on the abortion side
That's true.
of the ticket.
Can't take a soul. Only God.
If you do, Romans 1 says you will be held accountable for that.
That's right.
It tells you that.
That's right.
And stuff. So
Yep.
don't just think, well, I'm a Democrat or I'm the. It doesn't matter. You've got to vote. That, and I like what Frank Turk says. He goes, just that one issue alone is a deal breaker.
Yeah.
I don't care how good of a politician you are. You could have everything in favor with me, everything in favor, economy, everything. And all I got to do is go, where do you stand on abortion? If they say, oh, I'm pro-choice, done.
You're done.
I can't vote for you
can't
right
vote
there.
for you.
I
You
have
just
to
went
vote for
against my
life.
Bible. You
I have
can't
to
do
vote
that.
for creation,
That's
for
right.
life. So, hey, God bless everybody. Thank you for watching in and doing this with us. Our first time we ever tried that. And we'll see you at the next time. Don't forget, Fearless 33 AD. Subscribe and let
pray
us
us
know.
out, Pastor.
Comment.
pray us out.
Pray us out, Pastor.
Father, thank you for today. Thank you for this opportunity we get in a free country to be able to do the stuff that we do. We ask, Lord, that your hand be over our this season, as this political season is going to be probably the biggest one in the history of the United States. We ask for favor. We ask, Lord God, that you will guide us and direct us. May you get all the glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
See ya.